welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today's another awesome games from A to Z, and today's letter is V. Yeah, and this one wasn't that easy. I mean, it's kind of slim pickings when it comes to games that actually start with the letter V. And there's obviously a bunch of letters in the alphabet that have, had the same problem, but then I've had others that were like the opposite, where I had just way too many. But yeah, so the ones that I've actually found were games I'm more familiar with and games that I actually enjoy playing. So for the first one, and I always like to start off on the Atari 2600, and so that's going to be Vanguard. This game, like I really recently just started really getting into this game. It's actually quite interesting. It's a shooter style game, so you're obviously a ship. You're flying, and what's cool about this game is you actually get to shoot in like all different directions. So you're going in one direction. You're going, depending on where the tunnel is going, because your objective is to go through a series of tunnels to get to an end boss. And as you're flying, you're shooting in all different directions depending on where you want to go. Now I found the controls to be a little bit tricky to get used to because you always have to push in the direction that you want to shoot. Now they do give you some options. If you go into the instructions, the instruction manual actually tells you based on the difficulty switches. So if you put like the left one into A and then the right one into A, you push the fire button and then you push in the direction and you hit the fire button in the direction you want to fire, which I thought was a little bit, more on the simple way of doing it. So that's the way I kind of set it up. But it had a bunch of other ways, including like an auto fire and all that stuff. And of course, the ship, as if you're firing, it slows the ship down. So you need to stop firing to speed up. But what's really cool about the game is the colors and the effects of everything on there. I mean, you could really see all the enemies. They come out nice and crisp. You can actually make out the what they are. The caves themselves, it kind of has that Defender look to it. But it starts off going in one direction, and then as you go through the tunnel, now you're going down, so the thing's scrolling down, and then you might be scrolling up on the next screen, as you get to the end, and then you're scrolling again. So it gives you a bunch of different kind of screens. And just different levels of complexity. Some are more almost like a maze feel where you're kind of guiding around. So it's actually a pretty fun game, and I actually kind of started getting into it. It's one that I would recommend. It. You actually, if you're into the 2600, you probably have played it, but if not, I would pick it up and give it a shot. Now, the second game that I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of what I was saying with the video, and that's Video Pinball. I've always been a fan of pinball games on video game forums. I mean, I liked them in real life as well, but in video game form, I always kind of liked them. I had fun. And the Atari, there was two that I've always played, and one was Midnight Magic, which I think is probably my most favorite one. But the other one is the more iconic one, is the Video Pinball, and this one it's interesting because it uses the width of the screen. So in other words, most pinballs games you're going to expect it to be, a little bit more on the, thinner and longer, because that's how a pinball machine is. But on the Atari, you're using your TV screen. It's more of a, that standard TV, so it's more wide. It's just the way they had to do it. So to keep it all on one screen, you got this really wide pinball thing, which really looks neat. You got the Atari symbol in there. Now, the thing is about this one is it almost plays by itself in a lot of cases. Like, you can tilt it, but you basically, your ball is just going around and it's bouncing all everywhere, every direction, and, eventually it comes down to the flippers and then you can actually do something. But it's an interesting pinball game nonetheless. And a lot of people actually do get into that game. So it's definitely worth being on this list. The next one I want to talk about is probably one of my more favorite games that I play on a regular basis, and that's Venture. Now, Venture is a game that obviously started off as an arcade game and then got ported on all the different systems. And Coleco was the company that was putting it out for all these systems, so we had it on the Atari 2600, which is not too bad. It's missing a level, so you got, normally Venture has 3 full levels, so the Atari one is actually missing the 3rd level, but it's still playable. And I actually found the Atari one to be one of the more harder versions of the game. I actually prefer the Intellivision one myself. That's the one I grew up playing on. But if you want one that's more like the arcade, probably go with the ColecoVision version, because that was, you know, one of obviously the better of the three. Um, but then again, on the Atari 2600, we did get a hack of the game called Venture Reloaded. I have actually played that on my channel, and you can actually buy that game on the Atari Age website. You can get the, you know, actually purchase it there. And that one actually does play a lot more like the arcade. So, and it has that third level which was missing from the original. So, it's still, you know, it's a cool game. Either way you play it, kind of like a Berserk style game. There's a lot of different levels, a lot of different things going on, a lot of different enemies, characters. You got the hall monsters. So it's a really fun game, and I've played it a few times on my channel. So yeah, I would give it a go. And since I was just talking about the Intellivision, the last game I'm going to have talk about here is called Vectron. And this one is a weird game, but really cool looking. And I actually picked this one up a while ago, and I remember trying it, and it was quite hard. You're basically building a base, and and what people complain about really are the controls of it, because the movement is using the side buttons on the Intellivision, and you know, a lot of people that complain about the Intellivision, they complain about the controller, and especially the side buttons. So that's the way you actually like move and create your bases around the screen. And then you got to also defend your bases at the same time. But it's an interesting concept. But what makes it really cool is just the sound effects and the look and feel, the fonts that they used. It's a really nice looking game, and it's different. It's different than any of the other games that you probably would be familiar with. It's not one of those games that you can just you know, throw it in your Intellivision and just start playing it and know exactly what to do. You pretty much have to read the rules and rule book, or the instruction manual, I should say, and actually learn how to play the game. Which, you know, after a while you kind of get used to it. And it does have levels, it does advance on, it's not just a single screen. So it's actually a pretty decent game. I mean, it's hard as nails, but it's definitely a challenge if you want something challenging on your Intellivision. Anyways, yeah, that's my list. I didn't really explore too much into a lot of like more obscure games out there. I'm sure there are some that you could probably think about, but those were the ones that came to my mind. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Throw some comments down below if you've played any of these games and which ones you like. And if I've missed any V games, throw them in the comments. I always like to hear it. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.